Hey everyone, it is Kelsey. This is Essentially Booked, and thank you for stopping by my channel. I think the last video I filmed, I was super sick. I'm no longer sick. It was actually a pretty mild bout for it being my first round of that virus. So I'll take that as a win. So today's video is going to be my April reading recap and my May TBR combined. And I didn't do a great job of reading in May. My TBR was for Aurelium and I didn't complete my class syllabus, which makes me sad because it's like, I want to advance on and I keep failing. So I'm gonna get it in the fall. Maybe I need to change my focus to be less reading so that I can at least pass my major or my subject. I don't know. I still did have a good month and I actually got some books off my shelf that I was pretty excited about. So that is a good thing to start with, all right? I have a pretty ambitious pile of possibilities for May, but I'm really excited about May reading. And personally, my job is wild. I love it. I'm super busy. It's also soccer season, so May can get kind of hectic, but I think right now with it being nice out, I just got new patio furniture. Maybe I'll do a little like montage right here of that. It's raining though, so it's not as pretty. I'm starting to get plants. Like I have this oasis on my back deck once it's all set up because now we're past winter storms and stuff. Just tornadoes. Tornado season here in Iowa. But I think I can start getting my patio. I like to read outside once my child is down for sleep. So I'm hoping May is just a little bit better of a reading month. So let's get into my April reading recap and we will talk from there. I don't know why, but I have Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears stuck in my head. And I think it's because I didn't finish my TBR. My computer has been weird because yesterday we had a random power outage and like, I don't know, things are just not working the way I want them to. So I'm gonna turn off my internet, try it again, and get logged in. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to guess on what books I read. Because I will say for the readathon, ooh, and I can talk about Indie Bookstore Day in this one. Sorry guys, I'm just a hot mess today. I started logging most of my books on Storygraph and I like it better, but I have a few where it's like I've reread them and so it doesn't count it right? So I need to go in and play with my Storygraph because I like the graphics that Storygraph gives. But Goodreads is where I'm gonna have to be right now because I've been there for so long, since 2011. All right, so the very first two books I read in April were, well, I guess I don't even have the first one. So it's The Simple Wild and then Running Wild, which this is the fourth book in the series, but it's kind of standalone because it deals with a separate character, separate romance. It's not the main characters from A Simple Wild. This is about Marie. She falls in love with like a competitive musher in Alaska. This is set in rural Alaska wilderness. And it's funny because actually I should say the towns are set in, my husband has family that lives in these towns. We've yet to go. Sorry, family, we want to. Just things have happened and it makes me sad that we haven't gotten up to Alaska yet. But we have family up there and actually some of the places where these people live is where his family lives. So that's kind of cool. And they live more like Wasilla, Fairbanks, like more civilized, more populated areas. This does have a lot of places where it's like rural Alaska because it deals with a pilot. So I read those first two books and actually the third. So I read 3 books of the series. So I read both Kala and Jonah's story, the first 2 books. So that starts with The Simple Wild and then it's Wild at Heart. And then, spoiler alert, in May I want to read the novella that's I think their marriage. And this is Marie's story. So these were just fun. I started on the plane back from Arizona when I was there and then finished it when I got home. And then Running Wild, I just immediately picked it up because I really liked it and I was just in the mood for that. And then the next book I finished was Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This got a book off of my TBR for our fantasy, but it also I think counts for something for either Pop Sugar or the 52 book reading challenge. So I need to go back. I need to do a goal check-in on those videos and see where I'm at with reading challenges to see where I need to target some stuff. And then for Aurelium, and I think Ruthless Vows might have been an Aurelium book too. I think I'd be able to make it work. So I need to look at that. I think for Aurelium, one of my subjects was I had to pass a class that had a missing person. Was like, for one of the classes, the theme was a book with a missing person. So I read Local Woman Missing and I am not a thriller girly. I just like, they're fun and they're fine. And that's my general consensus pretty much always because I think I came of age and like Gone Girl, The Girl on the Train came out and those were revolutionary books. Even The Silent Patient, I would argue, and I think The Woman in the Window. And Riley Sager. Riley Sager is an exception because I tend to just love his books because I think he just does something for me. But generally, thrillers fall flat for me. And this I read when I was miserably sick. And it was a good, easy read to read in a day. I had a lot of fun with it. And it was a 4-star read until the end, which this is how all thrillers go for me because it seems to always crumble for me because I can't suspend disbelief at the end. And I felt like there was a whole storyline in this book that it didn't need to be in the book, basically. And it was supposed to make you think something, kind of like a red herring, but I don't know, it just didn't work when you ultimately found out what the resolution of the story was. But I will say, like, she's a really compelling author. Like, it was easy to keep reading. So if you like thrillers, I think you'll like this. I just have found myself, I give thrillers lower ratings, and that's just who I am. So I've stopped buying thrillers unless like they're really highly rated. And then even then I try to get them from the library because I don't think I want them on my forever shelf. I have a bunch of old book of the month thrillers I need to read. Maybe I should do a reading vlog and just knock those out. And then for my audiobook, I only listened to one audiobook this month, but it was John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed, and I loved it. It's a book of essays, and he basically talks about random things and rates them. So everything from like diseases to the Limino cave paintings to Diet Dr. Pepper, some bands. Like, it was just really, really fun and good. And the chapter on the song Auld Lang Syne, I guess he reads it every year for New Year's, and you can find it. It like made me bawl, and a friend told me it would, and then I listened to it and it did. It was just lovely about the human experience. Chef's kiss. This is, if you're looking for really easily accessible nonfiction, if you're not a nonfiction reader, I would 10 out of 10 recommend this. I immediately went and got Everything is Tuberculosis, his newest book, on audio from Libro because I was so excited. I loved this so much. And then it was Indie Bookstore Day, and hold on. Okay, so it was Indie Bookstore Day on April 29th. Goodness, I keep meaning to grab stuff and then I don't. Hold on. So I live in the Des Moines metro area in Iowa, and we have had an explosion of indie bookstores, which is super exciting. And we've done Indie Bookstore Day for like 3 or 4 years now, but they created a passport of all the bookstores that are members of our independent bookstore foundation. And I think there's like the Midwest booksellers and the American indie bookstores, and they sign up for Indie Bookstore Day. There's a new store that's launching in our area, supposedly like a romance bookstore, and she like jumped on the publicity, but she's not registered for that. So there was all of these plus one that wasn't included on this because they weren't registered. But they make these passports, and if you hit all of them and buy something, you entered into a drawing. I was able to go to 3 stores. My friends ended up going to 5 because we usually do a big event out of it. So here's some video footage of Indie Bookstore Day. The 3 we visited was Page Turners, which is in a town south of me, and I just adore that shop. And then Story House Book Pub, which is in downtown Des Moines. And then a new one to me was The Little Book, which is children book focused, but they do have an adult section, and I was just so pleasantly surprised by that bookstore. So I was really excited about that. I didn't get to go up to Dog-Eared Books, but it is Mother's Day soon, and my husband told me I could go up to Dog-Eared Books in Ames, which is my bookstore. I also have a credit there because I accidentally pre-ordered Onyx Storm 3 times. So I have a credit at this. I didn't pre-order it 3 times from there. My husband got it for me. I pre-ordered it at Barnes & Noble, and then I pre-ordered it at Dog-Eared Books because I forgot I pre-ordered it. So I have credits, and it's a really good problem to have. So I'll show you what I bought, and then I'll talk about one of the books I read. So I added the 2 Hunger Game books I don't yet have to my bookshelf. More to come on those. And then Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is a book that I think my husband will like, which is why I bought it. Plus it's for my Our Fantasy Bingo TBR, but it's having like a huge resurgence on BookTube and the book world in general. And then I got A Bit Much by Lindsay Rush. She is the author of Mary Oliver's Drunk Cousin on Amazon. And I adore her poems there. And this book has a lot of the poems from Instagram, but I read this in about 2 days. It was at the recommendation of my friend Sarah, and I'm so glad I did because this is just, if you're a mom, if you're a woman, basically if you're a woman, I don't even think there's a few poems that talk about motherhood, but like she just really writes and captures what it is to be a woman right now in this environment. And she has a poem on like gun control that kills me every time I read it. But I am sure you have read her poems online. She's lovely. This was so fun. So that was the next book I read. And then I finally got Elantris read. And this is like the most excited A+ me. I'm so proud of myself for finally getting this off my TBR. This is Brandon Sanderson's very first book. And you can tell. And I think I'm not mad I read it. It was 3 stars. This is about a city called Elantris that's like in the middle of other cities. And the Elantrians were this like perfect people. They radiated, they could do magic. You would come to Elantris for healing, but then one day this thing called the Shiad struck them, and it makes them, it's called the transformation, and it was random. And it essentially like turned all the Elantrians into zombies, really. And then if you had the blood of of the Elantrians and you were in the surrounding cities, they would send you to old Elantris if you happen to turn into a zombie. And so Elantris has been like shut down. So you have like what is going on amidst the zombies in Elantris, and they're not, zombies is the best way to describe them. Trying to figure out why this happened. And then you have like the politics and religious turmoil that is going on in the cities around. And it was really good. And I think I'm excited to keep reading the Cosmere. I have a few books this year that I'm probably going to read, but they're just big. It took a long time. This book just took forever. And I think there was a lot of, this is a quiet novel, and he even says so himself. Like, it's not his typical book, but it is one of his favorite he's written. The afterword of like him explaining this book and what it means to him, I wish I had read at the beginning, because I think I would have appreciated it a bit more. So it's more of a quiet novel. There's not a lot of action, but I did really enjoy it, and I'm glad I've started with it. I think I'm going to jump into Mistborn next. I also have Trust of the Emerald Sea, which is a standalone. I think that's kind of the plan. I'm going to keep reading him because I know how beloved he is, but this was probably not the best place to start if you have never read Brandon Sanderson. And there's reading orders where you can actually read this like after Mistborn, so I think I would have preferred that, but it's fine. I'm glad I did it. All right, and then the final book that I read in April was The Hunger Games. I'm rereading the series with some friends. And this was a 5-star read. Again, I love this dystopian. I mean, this book was kind of groundbreaking really for us in my generation. And so I'm reading all those. That's why I got the 2 books. I'm going to read hopefully at least the next one next month. All right, let's get into the May TBR. Let me get situated here. All right, let's first talk about book club books maybe. I think that'd be a good way to start because I do have a lot of book clubs, you know. My bestie book club, we are reading They Never Learn by Lane Fargo, and this is a thriller. I think one of the women is like a serial killer of men who abuse women, and then another girl gets kind of swept into the story somehow. But Lane Fargo wrote The Favorites, which I have right here that I haven't read yet. So that's for this book club. And then I still want to finish The Overstory by Richard Powers. So I need to just kind of sink into this one a bit more. This was from 2 months ago with my book club, and I just haven't gotten to it yet, which makes me sad. And then my in real life book club that I do with women from church, we are reading This Motherless Land by Nikki May, and it's a retelling of Mansfield Park, not Northanger Abbey. Anyways, then I also want to read Mansfield Park by Jane Austen to kind of like buddy read it together, or what's the word? Where you read 2 books? I don't know. This is what it's based off of, so I want to read it, and my brain is fried. So yeah, this is a Jane Austen one I haven't read. I'm trying to read all of her books this year that I haven't read because it's the 250th anniversary, I think, of Pride and Prejudice. So that's, I think, a good plan. And then Modern Mrs. Darcy this month is reading Search by Michelle Hunovan. And this is about like a congregation looking for a pastor, and I've heard really lovely things. They're pairing it with At Home in Mitford, which I have on my Kindle, so if I could make that work, I will, but I just have a really large pile of possibilities, so I don't think that will necessarily make sense, but I will try. Some carryovers from this month that I need to just finish. So When the Moon Hatched, this was on my Aurelium TBR. I'm like 50 pages in and I like it, so I want to finish it, make that a priority. I just need to like sink in and read it. But this is one that I think the sequel's coming out soon, so I do want to get it read. And then I am almost halfway through Savor It by Tara DeWitt. Her next book comes out soon, and I have the arc on NetGalley, so I wanted to read this because it's the same universe and some of the characters have overlap. But this is it's set in Spoons, Oregon, not to be confused with Forks, Washington, just so we're clear. And it's about Sage and Fisher. So Sage is like the small town, has always lived there, sunshine girl, and she gets out of a really bad breakup with her ex, who then marries an old friend of hers, or who gets engaged to an old friend of hers. And he's kind of like the town golden child. So like, it's just a very awkward place to be in a really small town, to be the ex of someone who's now engaged to be married. And then Fisher is a chef who gets sent to Spoons to open a restaurant because he's lost like his Michelin star. He's had some issues. So he's sent here to kind of redeem himself and like prove that he can do it in tow with his daughter with his sister who he's now the primary caregiver. Tara DeWitt has just a really funny voice, and I think she's just a funny author, but she's really good at also writing like depth, grief, nuance. And like I read the co-op by her later last year, and I really, really liked it. And so I'm super excited to do this, and then I'll read her newest, which is also set in this universe. Okay, and then technically I guess this is a buddy read too, but Catching Fire, I already talked about that. Some books to just hit some goals if I could get to these. So The Spell Shop is a cozy fantasy. This was it's going to be a Goodreads choice vlogging book, but it's also one that I have for our fantasy bingo. And then same with Heartless Hunter, our fantasy bingo, and I have a vlog for that planned. And then I'm continuing my slow but steady read of Cast. I'm not very far in this, but I'm just trying to slowly get this done because that's in a 25 and 25 video. I'm trying to, intentionally read some of those as well. And then it's the Everafterathon, which is put on by Books Forever After. And then my friend Mama Needs to Read Romance, B, if you don't follow her, she's hysterical. So I usually get reminded about this every time she posts about it, but I have a ton of historical romance, both on NetGalley and then that I own physically. And so this is exciting because I really am kind of in that mood with it being May. These will be easy for me to read that aren't like heavy, so I can fly through them. So the first one I have, and I haven't decided what team I'm going to join because all of these books fit a lot of things. Like they're not all leaning to one team, so you can pick a team. I think I'm just going to randomly pick a team and see where it gets me. The first one, this is on 25 and 25, is From Duke Till Dawn by Eva Leigh, and this is the first book I think in the London Underground series. It deals with a duke who has just been jilted at the altar, and his actual love is this casino owner. And I love books with gambling and casinos in it, so that's fun. Then the other physical one on my shelf is Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy. When this came out, like people were raving about it, and it's Lady Delilah Chambers is stranded in the country, and she's forced to fend off some ruffians with the help of a handsome gentleman. They're drawn to each other, they have a night together, and then they go their separate ways, only to find out that this man is supposed to be marrying her stepdaughter. So I don't know if it's age gap or what, or if it's like Regency, so they're close in age. But I've heard really good things about that. I also have like another book in this series that I got on NetGalley, so I could get it'd be nice to read it. The nice thing with romance is you don't have to read them in order. And then the rest of the books that I'm going to try to read this month, and on audio, I'm listening to Great Beautiful Lie by Emily Henry, and it is I haven't been seeing the best reviews, but it is an Evelyn Hugo retelling. Or no, it isn't. It is not an Evelyn Hugo retelling, but people are saying that's what it reminds them of. I trust Emily Henry, so I am assuming it will be great, but I just haven't heard a lot of great things. I just started that on audio. And then for the Everafterathon, I'm going to continue. I have 3 books by Vivian Loret called The Liars Club. It's a series. I have all 3 of them, so I want to knock those all out because they're NetGalley books that I haven't read. So it's Had to Be a Duke, The Trouble with Inventing a Viscount, and This Much Is True. And then the other 4 I have... No, the other 3 on NetGalley that if I could get to them, I would like to is The Mistress Experience by Scarlett Peckham. I've read the first 2 in the series and loved it. No, I haven't. I've only read 1 book in this series. I own one of them. Okay. Yeah, I need to get to that. Have I read the first one? Maybe it's a 4-book series. Now I need to look. This is the most recent one by Scarlett Peckham. She's just an author that really works for me. And then I have All's Fair in Love and War by Martha Waters or Virginia Heath. I don't know much about it, but it's an older one I need to get off my shelf. And then I have The Highlander's Return by Lindsay Sands, which is like a Scottish romance. So I have quite the extensive pile of possibilities, and I'm okay with that. I'm very excited for this reading month because I am excited about all these books that I could be reading. So there's not like one where I'm like, ugh. So that's fun. So I have a good stack of books to get me started. And yeah, until the next video, everybody. Bye.